Hello, vinyl community. My name's Alan. I'm doing this video to present an album that is featured in the Acid Archives. This is a book I think many of you are familiar with, and Dom at Seeking a Thread has started a series about this where people go through this book and show albums that they actually have that are in the book. I have, a few that are in there, and tonight I'm going to highlight one of them. But before I get there, I'm going to tell a story. It's going to involve going through several albums before I get to the actual album that's mentioned in the book. And it's a story about my life and growing up and going through different albums to finally get here. So we start off in the summer of '69. That's right, the summer of 1969, which was the summer before I started high school. So I was 14 years old, and I was very much into music then, but I didn't have any money. I think I owned, in the summer of '69, a handful of Beatles albums. I had Revolver, Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, Magical Mystery Tour. I might have owned the White Album by that point, I'm not sure. And that was about it. But I was still into music a lot, as were many of my friends. And in that summer, I remember talking to one of my friends who was in the neighborhood. She lived a couple doors down from me. Her name was Simone, and she was a year older than me. She was already in high school. So one summer day, we're talking, and she's all excited because she's going to go see the Iron Butterfly. And of course, they're the group that had the big hit with In-A-Gadda-Da-Vida. And that's this album. This is the original master series that MoFi put out. And I think they were playing at the Hampton Beach Casino in New Hampshire. I think it was probably July 1969. So, she was very excited about going. I was excited for her and her brother, Patrick. I think they were both going with some friends. I couldn't go, but I was happy for them. And then it was the next day or a few days later, I ran into her again. I said, "Oh, how was the concert?" She said, "Oh, Alan, it was fantastic. But even better than the Iron Butterfly was the band that opened up for them, called the Blues Image." I said, "Really?" They were amazing. I'd never heard of them. But she said, no, they were just really super. And sometime later, she actually got their album, which is this album, the debut album by Blues Image. And she lent it to me. And I really enjoyed the music too. This on the Atco label. And this album came out that year, 1969. And it featured really good music players. The lead guitar player who sang most of the songs, this guy named Mike Panera, who was 20 years old at the time. He's in this picture. And with albums, it's funny how album covers are so important. I just love this album cover, and I like the photos of the band members. They had a guy named Malcolm Jones, who was originally from Wales, who was a classical pianist. He played the bass. The drummer was a guy named Manny Bertamati. The keyboard player was Frank Skip Conti. And then on the bongos and drums and other percussion instruments was Joe Lala. And I think this was Joe Lala's first album. And later on, if you go on Discogs, you look at where he's credited. He's played on all kinds of bands' albums, everyone from Stephen Stills, Dan Fogelberg, just all kinds of artists. Really amazing. So this album is fantastic. Mike Panera was born in Florida, Tampa Bay, I think. And Joe Lala, I think, was born in Cuba. So you have a Cuban Latin influence in the music that really comes through. And what's interesting, this album was already out before Santana's first album was released, before Woodstock took place. Woodstock took place in August 1969. And so you can call this, maybe Latin American rock, but it's rock music. It has a great beat to it. All the songs are fantastic, and Mike Panera's guitar. These five members of the band just gel together, and the music's excellent. It's still one of my favorite albums today. Then you go into 1970, and you know, who's heard of Blues Image? Well, they had a hit song that came out called Ride, Captain Ride, which I think everyone is familiar with. And this album, I think, is even better than the first album. It still has, they do songs, they do a cover of La Bamba. They do one of the best blues songs I've ever heard, Clean Love. It's 7 minutes and 40 seconds long. It's just fantastic. I just love, they do a cover of Parchment Farm, which was the Mose Allison song. And again, Mike Panera's guitar playing is so good on this. He's playing, I think it's a Gibson 335. And again, also on this nice Atco label. Now, the interesting thing is, you get to the third album by Blues Image, which is called Red, White, and Blue. Kind of a neat cover. And it's also on the Atco label. But guess what? Mike Panera is no longer with the band. He's not on this album. They have a new guitar player whose name is Kent Henry. That's this fellow here. And you listen to this album and you have let's see, now they have, I think, a new singer. Maybe, you know, at least one new member, Kent Henry, and I think a new singer as well. And the songs kind of sound okay, but it's not there. Mike Panera is gone, and I can't really recommend the album. It's well recorded. It sounds good, but the songs don't do much for me. So I was interested to find out what else did Kent Henry do. Well, there was this album, which some of you are familiar with, Lord Sutch and Heavy Friends, which I also got shortly thereafter. And this has some kind of, a lot of people don't like this album, but I liked it. And, you know, it's kind of fun because you have Jeff Beck playing guitar. Jimmy Page produced it. He's playing guitar on some of these songs. Nicky Hopkins is on it. Noel Redding from Jimi Hendrix is playing bass on some of the songs. Nicky Hopkins is playing keyboards. John Bonham is playing drums. So there's, and this came out in 1970. So again, they're short songs, but Kent Henry actually played on a couple of these songs as well. And so that's the next time I heard of Kent Henry. And this was on my version. There are different covers on that. It's on the Cotillion records. And Kent Henry actually wrote one of the songs. After this, he went to Steppenwolf and was on the For Ladies Only album. I don't have that album. I do have kind of a poor version of 16 Greatest Hits. And this one came out in 1973. And I think the guy with the sunglasses might be Kent Henry, because he actually is listed as one of the writers of the song with a few other members of Steppenwolf for the hit song For Ladies Only, which was on, I guess, this Dunhill record. So what happened to Mike Panera? Again, well, you know, it's interesting. I think back to my neighbor saying, oh, Blues Image was even better than Iron Butterfly. Well, lo and behold, Iron Butterfly comes out with an album called Metamorphosis, and who's playing guitar on the album but none other than Mike Panera. He's joined the group, and you have all these photos of Mike Panera. And this is a pretty decent album. I really enjoyed it. It has, you know, good guitar work, good songs. It's well recorded, and it's also on the Atco label. And then I got this album, and I don't actually think I noticed it at the time, you know, and then I think Mike Panera left. What did he do next? Well, this other album comes out, Ramatan, which has On drums, Mitch Mitchell, the drummer for the Jimi Hendrix Experience, and April Lawton, who, according to some reports, used to be a man and was in the Brooklyn Bridge. And here we have Mike Panera, and he sings about half the songs and plays guitar, sharing leads with April Lawton, and they sound good together. So that was kind of interesting. And I listened to almost all of these albums today. And this album came out, 1972. So, it's amazing. A lot's happening in just a few years, because the first Blues Image album was 1969. The second one came out in 1970. Oh, and the other thing, I just found this out today looking it up. Apparently, Kent Henry came into Blues Image while they were recording the second album, Open. And there were two guitar solos. There's the guitar solo that's almost kind of country-ish with some neat bends in the middle of the song. And then towards the end, it's more of a hard-rocking guitar solo. Sounds kind of distorted. And what I read is that Ken Henry plays that guitar solo in the middle, and it's Mike Panera who's playing it at the end. 1975, just to deviate a little bit, go off on another tangent, Blood, Sweat, and Tears puts out this album, which is called New City, and David Clayton Thomas is the singer on it. And don't you know, what do they open side one with? A cover of Ride, Captain Ride. It sounds like Blood, Sweat, and Tears, but it's a decent version. It doesn't have much guitar in it, but really good horns. So in the meantime, so that's 1975. What happens to Mike Panera? Well, he makes this album that apparently came out in 1977, and it's called Isla. And this is a pretty good album. It has songs that really rock. He plays good guitar, and I love Mike Panera's guitar sound. I love the sound on the first two Blues Images albums. I like his guitar sound on Metamorphosis, and I like it on this album. It's kind of hard. I think he played through Fender amps, at least in the Blues Image years, and it's like it breaks up with a little bit of natural tube distortion, and it's just fantastic. And this is the label. It's Capricorn Records, and it was made in France. So finally, thank you for bearing with me, we get to the album that is mentioned in the Acid Archives, and that's this. It's by none other than Blues Image, and it's called Something to Say. And it's on what he does. You look at the people on the band in this version, their names, I don't know any of them. There's Dwayne Hitchings on keyboards and bass. There's Ken Suarez on drums, Craig Patton on drums, and Carmen Catman on keyboards. I don't know who they are, but they recorded this in Miami, Florida. And what it is, it's basically re-recordings of songs that came from most from the first Blues Image album. I think maybe one from the second album. And it's on Illusion Records. And what's interesting in Acid Archives, it says that it talks a little bit about this record company being a tax scam that Mike Panera was involved with. So it sounds like kind of shady things that some of the record companies used to do to avoid paying taxes. Again, it doesn't go into a lot of detail. And this album, it's okay. But the thing is, Mike Panera, to me, wasn't as good as he was with the original Blues Image. And the original Blues Image wasn't as good as they were when they had him. So I think they were very strong when they were together. This album isn't, half as good as the first two. And it doesn't, there's one song here where it sounds a little Latin, a little Cuban perhaps, but it's mostly a rock album. So I think the other members of the Blues Image really brought out that character, that flavor. And the interesting thing is, when I looked at, unfortunately, Mike Panera passed away a few years ago. He was only, I think, about 76 years old. But they made some great music. I highly recommend those first two Blues Image albums. I highly recommend the Metamorphosis album by Iron Butterfly. Apparently he was born, his first name was Carlos. And I think this is, one of the best examples of that type of music, but it's really great rock music. It's just great music in general. I like the songs. I remember seeing it probably in 1970 on the American Bandstand one Saturday afternoon, and they had the Mike Panera Less version of Blues Image lip syncing to Ride Captain Ride, and I think it was Running the Water. So I think you can get it on some channels that maybe IMDb, but you have to pay for that. I haven't seen it yet, but I read about that today. So anyway, thanks very much for watching this video. I enjoy watching your videos. I'd be happy if you click the thumbs up, and if you have any comments, I'd be happy to hear them. So it's great to see the Violet community, and I wish everyone the best. Again, thank you for watching.